Let's talk a little bit about what the ID4 is and where it's positioned. Now, the ID4 is a compact SUV. You can see it in terms of the silhouette. You'll experience it in terms of the space. The model we have here today is the Pro S model, also equipped with the gradient package, and I'll talk you through some of those details. Now, you'll see here on this ID4, this vehicle does contain our optional projector LED headlights, and these LED headlights are circled over here by an LED light bar. Now, this LED light bar also extends into the front grille, and the two light bars culminate in an illuminated Volkswagen logo. Okay, as we transition to the rear, let's talk one more time about these SUV-like proportions and the slightly more upright C-pillar. Not only does that give you slightly better headroom in the second row, but it also gives us a really generous trunk space. And we'll talk a little bit about the really cavernous trunk space of the ID4. Before we do, let's talk a little bit about the tail lamps. Now, we mentioned the LED lighting up front, and that treatment definitely continues in the rear. You'll see stunning LED tail lamps, and you'll see this ID4 light bar that extends right across the trunk, and it connects these two LED tail lamps. Now, one of the cool features about the ID4 Pro S is it is equipped with KESI, but it's also equipped with an additional feature called Easy Entry. And how this feature effectively works is you arrive at the car, hands are full, you've got the key fob in your pocket, and all you effectively need to do is put your foot underneath the car, step back a little, and the trunk opens for you without using your hands. You then have the ability to obviously pop your goodies into the trunk. So very simple and very easy to use. Let's now then focus our attention a little bit to the side of the car. I have mentioned that this car contains our beautiful new Volkswagen design language, and I can tell you that every effort has been made with the design to try and optimize aerodynamics. As we all know, better aerodynamics results in reduced drag ultimately results in optimized range. And there's no better example of that really than these flush door handles. These door handles are not only flush, they're also illuminated at night, and you'll see that they have a soft touch release catch. Whilst we're on the side of the car, let's talk about a couple other things. You'll see the ID4 has enormous wheels. The ID4 comes standard with 19-inch wheels, and the Pro S with the gradient, you'll see has these upgraded large 20-inch alloy wheels. The gradient package also contains this black roof. You'll notice some very nice silver roof rails, and that ends here in the C-pillar with the silver blade at the back end, and then is also integrated into the rear spoiler. Now, one of my favorite features before we jump inside about the ID4 is that this vehicle is super intuitive and very, very easy to use. And there's no better way to display that other than to effectively take the key, put it in my pocket. I'm going to unlock the door with the KESI system. And you'll notice that as soon as I seat myself in the seat over here, the vehicle recognizes that I'm in the car, and it immediately awakes and is ready to go. So now all I need to do is put my foot on the brake, twist the gear shift selector, one click forward, and I'm ready to go. So let's then talk a little bit about the interior of the ID4. And obviously I think the first thing you notice is this beautiful VW designed leather wrapped steering wheel with haptic touch buttons. And these buttons give you great feedback when you touch them. Now, despite the fact that the ID4 has a really big display over here, Volkswagen firmly believes that all critical information needs to be displayed right in front of the customer to avoid any other distraction. And the little ID cockpit does a great job of giving you all the critical information that you need. The great thing about the ID cockpit too is that it's actually attached to the steering column. So even when you're moving the steering column up or down, the ID cockpit stays in your line of sight and is not interrupted or interfered with by the steering wheel. As we shift our attention just right of that, you'll see that no longer do you have a drive shift selector down at the bottom here. It's right up here at the top, very close to your hand with the steering wheel. And all you really need to do is twist forward for drive, twist backwards for reverse, and ultimately when you come to a standstill and need to park, you basically just hit the park button. Let's then shift our attention a little bit to this very large, intuitive 12-inch screen that you see here, which is standard on the Pro S and first edition models. Now, even in our basic ID4, this screen is 10 inches in terms of size, so a really large infotainment screen. What's also quite important to understand is that this vehicle, the Pro S, you'll see all these accents are in black, but for our first edition, the steering wheel, ID cockpit, infotainment screen, and door inserts over here will actually be offered in white, and will also include some very cool play and pause pedals on the pedals down below. You'll notice ambient lights that also extend into the door trim panel, and these have up to 30 different settings in terms of colors. Now, the beauty about a battery electric car is that the vehicle has no tunnel underneath. So it really does free us up to make sure that we can have a center console that's extremely spacious. And up front, you'll see the center console starts with some generous cup holders and good storage space. And these are actually adjustable, so you can take these inserts out, you can reinsert them for different cups of different sizes. As we pull back the tray over here, you'll notice 2 additional cup holders and a very smart little storage space for your cell phone. And this also obviously has wireless inductive charging. Last but not least, for passengers, there are also 2 USB charge points over here, so very simple and easy to use. Now, one of the coolest features about the ID4 has to be the ID light, which sits at the top end of the dashboard. And what the ID light really does is it communicates with you, the driver, and interfaces with the vehicle. For example, when you're using the navigation, the ID light might guide you to turn right or ultimately turn left. The ID light also warns you when you have incoming calls. And last but not least, the ID light, when your vehicle's on charge, also gives you a status bar as to how charged up your vehicle is. You'll notice that this ID4 is equipped with a very spacious, very large glass panoramic roof. And this roof allows in a lot of light on a sunny day. What this roof is also equipped with is an electric power shade. And you'll see over here at the top, there's a very simple glide function where you just swipe your finger like that and ultimately the shade closes. Now the Pro S model does come standard with 12-way electric power seats, and you'll see these seats are also wrapped by leatherette, and you'll see the pattern over here has got a very nice perforated hexagon shape. The ID4 is also equipped standard with some adjustable armrests, which means you and your passenger can ultimately get the perfect setting for a comfortable drive. Let's jump into the back. And there you have it, 6'4" in terms of height, but a really comfortable place to be here in the second row of the ID4. And again, because we've got a very upright roof line and we don't have a slanted roof line, it really gives you adequate headroom for even a tall individual here in the back of the car. So this is a 60-40 seat split configuration. Also, again, when you focus your attention on the floor, you'll notice again, no tunnel over here, which means that your third passenger sitting in the middle really has adequate footroom. You'll also notice some air vents, and then obviously for the passengers in the back, 2 USB-C chargers. Last but not least, a very cool little handy feature. You can drop your cell phone in there, so we've got a cell phone pocket holder on the back of the seat. And here you can see with the seats up, the ID4 has no less than 30.2 cubic feet of space. And when we drop those seats, that extends to a whopping 64.2 cubic feet. Another cool feature here in the rear is this variable loading floor. It does give you the ability to store goodies underneath the floorboard. And if you have an additional large item that you need to carry in the trunk and you need a little bit more trunk space, this variable floorboard also drops to extend the trunk space just a fraction. So there you have it, folks, a sneak preview into our all-new electric ID4, a vehicle that is not only beautiful, but also has real SUV-like proportions, and those proportions obviously transcend into some of that really impressive interior space. The ID4 is very well loaded in terms of standard content, a vehicle that has impressive range, and also a vehicle that is bundled up with a really competitive price. We thank you very much for your attention throughout this video, and we look forward to getting you behind the wheel of an all-new ID4.